A few months ago, I went on a trip to San Francisco and had the opportunity to take Fujifilm's medium format GFX100 II with me. I had a great experience shooting with that camera, and I even said that if I had $10,000 to just throw around, that would be the camera I would buy. But just last month, Fujifilm announced a new camera in their GFX lineup. It's significantly cheaper, so much that I have actually considered buying it. This is the Fujifilm GFX100S II. It's a medium format camera and actually the cheapest digital medium format you can currently buy that is on the market right now. Now, full disclosure, before we get into it, Fujifilm did send me this camera to test out along with a bunch of lenses and their brand new X-T50, which I'll be making a video on soon. However, this video is not sponsored. They have no say in what goes in this video. They don't get to review it before it goes live, and I don't get to keep any of this gear. This video does have a sponsor though, and that's Motion Array. A little bit about them later in this video. Okay, medium format sensor, 102 megapixels, 16-bit RAW, and that's essentially what makes the 100S II unique from other cameras out there like my A7 IV. There's also my favorite feature that nobody talks about, but we'll get to that in a bit. The GFX100S II, just like the non-S version, has a 102 megapixel medium format sensor. It might have the same processor and megapixels as the non-S version or the GFX100 II. However, it's not the same. This one is not the high-speed version that is in that camera. Now, medium format is what makes this camera so special because it's so much larger than a full frame sensor, about 1.7 times larger than full frame and 4 times bigger than APS-C. The bigger sensor allows for more light, giving you more dynamic range, more bit depth, better low light performance, a shallower depth of field, a higher resolution image, and so much more. The level of detail that this sensor can capture is just amazing. Now, it being medium format means it can also capture a lot more bit depth, where most cameras like my A7 IV can shoot uncompressed RAW at 14-bit, the GFX100S II can do that in 16-bit. And 16-bit isn't anything to play around with. The difference is huge. 4 trillion colors with 14-bit and 281 trillion colors with 16-bit, meaning you might not see the difference on the back of your LCD screen, but when editing, you'll notice you have a lot more flexibility when pushing and pulling colors. However, this also means that you get larger file sizes, with one raw photo coming anywhere between 150 to 250 MB per photo. Now, if you don't feel it's necessary to shoot these big files, Fuji does make it really easy to lower your file sizes in camera. Some of the ways you can do that is by dropping the resolution or shooting in something like lossless compressed. Shooting with it, it feels the same as a GFX100 II. It's a little bit smaller, weighs a little bit less, and has less custom buttons. The GFX100 II had a couple custom buttons here, which this camera doesn't have. Now, typically when shooting with any Fuji, I like to load up a film recipe and use their film simulation. So I did a lot of shooting with a Portra 800 recipe, and I just love how the photos came out straight out of camera. That's truly the best experience when shooting with any Fujifilm camera, is having a good looking photo straight out of camera. Now, you might notice that it looks like these photos were taken with an anamorphic lens, and that's actually X-Pan. Essentially, it's just shooting a super wide aspect ratio. I believe it's like 65 to 25 or 24 or something like that. The brand new Lumix S9 actually has it, and everyone has been raving about it, and the GFX models have it as well. I've literally been shooting in this aspect ratio these past few days. It just makes everything look so good. I'm literally obsessed with how it looks, and now all I want is a camera that can shoot in X-Pan. Now again, shooting at 102 megapixels means I can crop these photos however I want and still get a high resolution image. For me, being a portrait photographer, I love this because it means I am capturing enough detail in my subject's skin so much that I can retouch later in post. In terms of specs, it has a new 8-stop IBIS unit. It's weather resistant. It has 6 different custom modes that are separate for movie and stills. It has 20 film simulations with the ability to create your own film recipes. It can shoot 400 megapixel stills in its pixel shift mode, and it comes in at $4,999 USD. Now, considering it is a medium format and that the GFX100 II is $7,499, how did they make it much more affordable? And by much more affordable, I mean in terms of medium format. Now, you've probably noticed that I've been using these super cool templates and graphics like this retro TV, and you're like, Stefano, how did you make those? Well, I didn't. As someone who is producing so much content every week, I don't have the time to spend making these myself. So that's where Motion Array comes in. Motion Array is a platform with thousands of copyright-free assets for any creator at any level. They have video templates for Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro. They have presets and LUTs, motion graphics, title packs, stock footage, music, sound effects, plugins, and more. Literally an all-in-one platform made to find anything you need to level up your content. The best part is that you can download as many assets as you want and use these assets for personal projects, spec projects, commercial work, YouTube videos, without worrying about any copyright issues. They have a few plans you can choose from, whether you're a single content creator, small team, or full-scale production company. So if you want to try out Motion Array for yourself, head to the link in my profile and you get $50 off any annual Motion Array plan. So definitely go check that out. So thank you, Motion Array, for making this video possible. And let's get back to the GFX100S II. Well, first, it has a fixed EVF instead of a removable EVF that was on the GFX100 II. This viewfinder also has a resolution of 5.76 million dots, which is still really, really high, but it doesn't have that 9.44 million dots that was in the GFX100 II. We also don't have that high-speed sensor. Our maximum speed in continuous burst is 7 frames per second, whereas the 100 II was 8 frames per second, and our shutter speed maxes out at 1/16 thousandths on the electronic shutter. They also removed the CF Express Type B card slot, and we now have 2 UHS-2 card slots, which some people honestly might like because CF Express cards can be quite expensive, but because we can't use those fast cards, video specs also got reduced. The GFX100S II can shoot up to 4K 30 in 10-bit 422 and 1080 at 60 frames per second. It can also shoot ProRes by using an external recorder like an Atomos Ninja, which has been a downgrade from the 8K 30, 10-bit 422, and internal ProRes you can get with the more expensive GFX100 II. They also opted for a micro HDMI port instead of a full-size HDMI, which was on the GFX100 II, and they removed that big Ethernet port that I'm not sure who used anyway. But yeah, that's essentially everything that's different between the two. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. So it makes you think, is the GFX100 II worth the extra $2,500? Well, that's something for you to figure out. The one thing I just can't seem to get used to is the size of this camera and its lenses. I know it's medium format and obviously the body needs to be able to house that massive sensor, and the lenses also need to be big enough to cover this massive sensor. It's definitely not a small kit, and this past week when I went out shooting with both the GFX and the new X-T50, I opted for the X-T50 for those everyday walking around photos, just because of its small size and weight. Which leads me to the one question you're probably asking yourself right now, and that is, who is this camera made for? Who would spend $4,999 or 6,750 Canadian on a camera body and another few $1,000s on lenses and carry around a big setup like this? Is it an everyday camera like the X100 VI that you can just throw around your neck and go about your day? No, this is a camera made for those professionals who really care about the quality and details in the stills that they capture. Landscape photographers, portrait photographers like me, fine art photographers, branding photographers. This is who this camera is for. I actually spoke to one of the Fujifilm reps and they said that a lot of celebrity photographers buy their GFX cameras because they know their work is going to be scaled on big billboards. But also a lot of museums buy their cameras to capture high quality scans of artifacts for archival purposes because it has the detail and quality that they need. Does that mean it's not the right camera for the everyday street photographer? No, and in fact, it'll probably take some amazing photos. It just might be too big and heavy of a rig to carry around for a day of shooting. But anyway, I've enjoyed my time with this camera. I wish I would have had it for a little bit longer to fully experience it and give a proper review. And I do think even though we don't have as many features as a GFX100 II, it's still an excellent camera for the price. Will I buy it? Let's just say it is very tempting at that price. And I will say if I didn't just buy a dirt bike a couple weeks ago, I would have probably bought this. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something new, make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.